Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. Ahmadiyya Fact Check blog. Another day, another video. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about, let me show you who. This scenario, this situation. Declan Henry on the left and Asif Basit on the right. So before I forget, before I start, let me get you guys some context here. The context is Asif Basit is a second generation employee of the Ahmadiyya movement. Second generation. So he's a legacy kid. You know, his dad used to work for the Mirza family. You know, his grandfather lived across the street from Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Literally. Like, as the door to the Mirza house would open, their house was across the street. Now, this was a house that was bought and built, I think, by the son-in-law of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, Nawab Muhammad Ali Khan. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's daughter, who didn't get an education, by the way, I doubt she could even read the Quran. It's up in the air. It's dubious. We're not sure yet. Which, you know, as a Muslim, even the women are taught to read the Quran, bro. You know, especially in your youth, especially in that time frame. That's what you're taught as a Muslim kid. You know, the first thing before anything else is taught. It's basic general Quran. You know, because you have to be able to memorize it to read the Quran yourself, to recite the Quran yourself in your own prayers if you're alone. So anyhow, the grandfather of Asif Basit he ended up taking over that house and turning it into a store, a convenience store, and it was right across the street, right? So then in 1947. And they don't list when his grandfather died, but his grandfather must have died either. I think he was a companion of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. But these are my point in saying all this. These are important people. These are people, and here's his dad. These are people who were trusted by the Mirza family because they've known him for so long that they've known generations on generations. So that's why he's in charge of MTA. He's the director of MTA. Okay, they wouldn't give that to anyone else. And you know what's funny is the guy who was the director before Asif Basit is the notorious Shandy Shah. Brother Umar, is that funny? Is that funny?
Is there anything that is not funny about this community?
Right. So Shandy Shah was the guy who got caught with a DUI. There's a video on it. He was the director of MTA. He also had that video with the Nida that was in Urdu. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Where he's saying things in there that are, forget Islamic. Those are even below un-Islamic things that he was saying. You know, which I can't repeat. You know. So anyhow, this is the background of who this guy is. All right, he's a third generation employee confidant of the Mirza family. Okay, so let's see what this interview is about. I took notes. So first off, the interview, we don't know if the questions were given beforehand or not. Brother Umar, do you think he gave him the list of questions before the interview or after? Because it wasn't live. So what do you think?
I think he was given like a guideline. Probably they wouldn't want. I don't think he's the kind of guy that will accept a list of questions. He will refuse. The way I know this guy, I don't think he would accept just a list of questions. He was probably given a guideline, like what areas that will not be are like out of discussion and what can be discussed.
Right.
I guess that's how it is.
Yeah. Look, I do.
And I'm sure it has been edited. I'm sure there's something that's been left out. There's no way this is the full thing.
Right. Because it wasn't even a live video. It's not like it was a live video. It was clearly edited. You know, so look, I do interviews all the time. I send it, like with Dr. John Morrill, I sent him the questions ahead of time. Here, this is what I'm going to ask you, and I stuck to it. You know, I think there might have been some gray, but mostly I stuck to it. You know, but it was still a live video. It wasn't like in fact, all my videos have been live. I don't think I've ever done like I think early, you know, before 2018 or something, I was making videos. They weren't live, but yeah. So that's the big question: is when did he see the questions? Did he know ahead of time? Did he not know ahead of time? Okay, and it was at the temple of Futuh, which is it's on home field. He's got home field advantage, right? He's at his temple, so that was interesting. And then he starts off with asking, how's the Jalsa? And he says he attended the Jalsa in 2018 or 2019. And then he starts asking them, well, how many Ahmadis are there? And well, he says, first off, he said 42,000 attended the Jalsa. Here's what he didn't tell. He didn't tell that that's a 3-day count. So you got to divide 42 by 3, and you probably get the number. So, and I even think that's an exaggerated number. I wanted to do some more research on those tents. Those tents that they rent, you can go find the capacity of those tents. I just haven't had the time to figure it out and do it. And Brother Umar, that's why I love Brother Imtiaz. I didn't have time to go do all the research that he did, but he did. So I'm always looking for help, as everyone knows. You know what I mean? I can't research everything. I can't figure out everything. I'm barely scratching the surface. I get help from other people. And that's sort of how it works. That's the Islamic tradition. All the way back to Bukhari is when you seek knowledge, you go look for it from people. What do you know? What do you know? And then how do you corroborate this information? How many people can say that they heard this and et cetera. So, all right. So he says 42,000 people attended. And then it comes to a point where he asks, well, how many Ahmadis are there in the world? And he says 10 million. And then he says, no, it's like 12 to 15, right? What's interesting about that, Brother Umar, did you know in 1969, 55 years ago, is my math accurate? Is that 55? Yeah, 55 years ago, Mirza Nasser Ahmad said there were 10 million Ahmadis. Brother Umar, so in 55 years, how much have they grown? They haven't grown.
Well, that would mean like 2 to 5 million.
Not even that, because in 69 he was lying. Mirza Nasser Ahmad was straight up lying. There was no 10 million, because he said that in 1969. They were still saying it in 1989. So 20 years later, he says, yeah, there's still 10 million of us. Well, again, that's a marketing thing that these guys do. So if you're selling potatoes and someone asks, well, how many countries are you in? We're in 200 countries. right. Oh, okay. So it's all sales.
The thing is, Brother Bashir, Brother Bashir, they have messed up the numbers so bad, there is no way to fix the numbers. There is nothing that they come up with that will fix the mistakes they've made with the numbers. So they'd rather just be quiet and stick on a figure and just calculate it and put it in a way that they can actually it can make it believable among their sheep, because nobody believes these numbers except themselves. Nobody believes these numbers. Even you could see the guy's reaction, Declan Henry's reaction when he told him 12 to 15 million. That is not a reaction of somebody who's convinced.
Right. So it's a total sham, and then no, the biggest irony in all this is he says he doesn't know. Bro, you're the director of MTA. You work at the Ahmadiyya Research Center. All you got to do is go ask. At least in the UK, there's records in the UK of all Jannah paying members. There's records in the UK of non-Jannah, of everything in the UK, Germany, everywhere in Europe. Come on, man. There's a member ID that's given out, bro. So everybody knows. So why? But then he says, he asks, what country has the most amount of Ahmadis? He says Pakistan. Oh, so that somehow that. Okay. And then, which in my estimation, I think I estimated 60 to 80,000 Ahmadis left in Pakistan. Actually, I don't have that number in front of me, but that sounds about right. 60 to 80,000, maybe, anywhere in that band. So then he says the continent of Africa and the 40, 50 countries that are there has more Qadianis than Pakistan. Well, he just throws the whole thing into a loop. Well, so he puts out the assumption that he has a list of all the Ahmadis countries in Africa, and he's totaled those up, and then he's seen the number in Pakistan, and this one's bigger than this one. So what the heck is this guy talking about? He's lying to
Yeah, so for some reason, he has no access to the records, but he knows that Africa has more Ahmadis combined than Pakistan. So where does that come from? Like you said, like it's not just approximation. Why did you approximate it as more than Pakistan? That means you have access to numbers. By the way, Bashir, they're just fooling people because all it needs is just their IT administrator who has access to their database to run one query, it's called SQL, one query on their server. It will only take 10 seconds and give you the total number of Ahmadis, assuming that each of them has the ID, their ID. Everybody is in the database. As soon as you sign up for this club, you're in the database. So it's very easy to get the count, which will give you the count including all the ones who have left but not officially. It should not take more than 10 seconds. If your system is very slow, maybe it will take 30 seconds.
Right. And remember, these are the people who had the first satellite channel. They have detailed records. They got they have over like 300 employees worldwide who are working. They have a global operating budget of about 100 million. And you're telling me they don't have a record of the Chanda pay? Whereas, look, in America, the Khalifa's brother said he said like 30% of Ahmadis are paying 70% of the Chanda. Like, how can this guy have that amount of detail? And if you combine that with what Asif said he knows, then he contradicted himself, in an epic way. So that was pretty funny, by the way. So, all right, let's see what else. And then, okay, for the Germany Jalsa, they made an announcement, and he said the same number as in the Germany announcement, 12 to 15 million. So he went with the official. So he knows the official number. That's not an issue. He totally knows it. He totally knows it. So, these guys keep lying and keep lying. And let's be clear, because look, I know Ahmadis will say, oh, Mirza Tahir Ahmed started lying. Mirza Ghulam Ahmed was lying, bro. Mirza Ghulam Ahmed claimed 400,000 followers before he died, right? Brother Umar, do you remember that?
Sorry, I was muted. Come again?
Before Mirza Ghulam Ahmed died, he claimed 400,000 followers.
I am not familiar with the code, but I know I said hundreds of thousands. That's the one that I know.
Yeah, he claimed.
Hey, Bashir, you're asking me. I should be asking you.
So what's fun? So what I was saying is, I'll bump into like rogue Ahmadis or ex-Ahmadis who are still like semi-Ahmadi. They'll be like, no, Mirza Tahir Ahmed lied about it, and then I'll show them what Mirza Nasser Ahmed said. They said, okay, he lied too. Then I'll be like, well, Mirza Ghulam Ahmed said 400,000, and he never saw them. They're claiming based on bat forms that they received at their office. Like, bro, come on, bro. You didn't even see these people. Who fabricated 400,000 bat forms, bro? You know what I mean? That's not true. Where? They even said in Egypt, there's more Ahmadis than grains of sand or something like that. So come on.
He said that, I think he was told that the people of Alexandria accepted Ahmadiyya.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't have the quote, but he said something like it was like a letter from some mystery follower of his. Again, it was like a fake letter he made up. He makes these up and says, someone sent me a letter saying there's this many. Like, bro, come on, bro. Stop lying. Stop lying. But they're not going to stop. It's their business. Guys like Asif Basit, their dad got a job, and they were able to leave Pakistan. You know what I mean? And he'd otherwise be a bum. He'd just be working on this, working some a menial job, not getting paid, and no travel. So his whole family benefited immensely. So people ask me, why do people join Ahmadiyya? Because some people are benefiting from it. There's a small percentage that are benefiting on the sacrifice of others. On the sacrifice of people like my dad, who's sacrificing his children for these guys, for them to have a job. So okay, all right. And we got some questions. Mirza Mahmood said there'd be 10 million. That's okay. I haven't seen that reference. If you could, it's in that famous speech from 1956. I got to double check that. I have to double check that. I actually did not know that. That's why they use 10. Oh, okay. So see, brother, I'm learning every day, brother. I tell everyone. Again, it's the Islamic tradition to learn and continue to learn. So now I got to go and find that. But okay. Where was I? Okay, so then he says, you know, why does the Khalifa give speeches in Urdu? Brother Omar, do you have the answer to this one?
Why does he give speeches in Urdu? Because that's the chanda paying group. They're the ones who understand Urdu. I understand that they always say that in Africa that those people are poor, they're helping them. So I'm assuming they're not paying chanda. I mean, even if they're paying chanda, it's not as much as the Urdu-speaking asylum cases.
That's the cash cow right there. So that's why he's speaking to them. Like Declan said, he's not speaking to me because I don't understand what he says. Who is he speaking to? You know, and that was like the underlying revelation there is that, look, your Khalifa is pandering to an asylum, a group of asylum or legacy kids whose grandfather was an MD and got a job, whose dad got a job, or whatever the situation is. Someone themselves, their uncle is a murabbi. So this is their legacy. You know, Razi, his family got asylum to Germany and it didn't work, so he went to Canada and then got it in Canada, which I don't know how do you come to Germany, get denied asylum, but can catch a flight to Canada? I have no idea how that's possible. You know, maybe for them it was possible, but not for regular people, especially if you don't have a Canadian visa. You can just show up. You could get on a flight to go to Canada without a visa. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of inside information there also that hopefully it'll be uncovered soon. So okay.
You must have access to the correct broker. You know, you have to know the right broker.
The right
you know about Malaysia, right?
Right. Same thing.
Let's continue the video. It's better.
Okay, all right.
Otherwise, it's going to be for 6 hours like Imtiaz.
No. This is gonna be quick. We should be done in like 20 minutes. Okay, so Declan Henry, in his book he wrote that there's 12 million Ahmadis in the world. Declan Henry, he wrote this in his book, and I spoke to him on the phone. I was like, dude, where'd you get this from? You know, what census is that based on? And Asif said, he always points the finger. You know, just like Razi, if we ask him why did Mirza Ghulam Ahmad do this, he points the finger at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? They do the same thing. They do the same thing. Why are you saying it to me? You are doing it too. But no, I'm not. No, I'm saying that you're doing it. Wait, what? What are you talking about? So anytime we blame you for anything, you're gonna blame us? What? So the 12 million, what is it based on? The Ahmadiyya Movement's the one giving it. What are they basing it on?
That's strange, you know. The thing is, he wrote 20 million, but he was surprised when the guy told him 12 to 15 million. I think he did further research and realized that 20 million figure is wrong, and he came back to his senses, and that's why he was shocked to the 12 to 15 million.
Yeah, I don't know, but
maybe that zero is there by mistake. There's one extra zero.
No, and in Urdu, like, okay, so in English it's 1,000,000, comma 000 for a million. In Urdu, it's not. That's not the case in Urdu.
What do they use?
They put a comma at 100,000, I think. Because
they call it lakh, right?
There's no word for million. It jumps from lakh to crore. They don't even have a separate word for million. For million, you say das lakh, 10 lakh is a million.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm aware of that.
I saw the number. I was like, bro, why is the comma in the wrong place? I couldn't really understand it until like years later. I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's why, because they go off of, for them the big number is 100,000, which it's only recently when manufacturing hit over 1 million that the word million became popular. Really, no one produced 1 million anything before like World War I. So that's a global business thing with widgets. In the accounting classes that I teach, we talk about producing billions of widgets. you know, in a factory. No one was doing that in the 1800s. Anyhow, okay, so here we go. So he says he's not part of the department that carries out census. He has no idea. That is hilarious. Okay, and then he says the Pakistan Africa thing, and then he says it's impossible to carry. Brother Umar, he says it's impossible to carry out such a census. He says it's impossible.
Bro, I'm not even that good with IT, but just give me 5 to 10 minutes access to the database, and I'll give you the numbers.
Yep, all you gotta do is.
I'm not kidding. Just ask anybody who knows about databases and SQL queries, and give him like 5 to 10 minutes to look at the structure of the database, and he'll give you the numbers. Unless you intentionally structure your database in a way that people should not be able to find it easily, but still, anybody who knows about databases can get that figure from you. It doesn't matter how as long as you have the records, they can give you the total number of Ahmadis. They can give the total numbers of Ahmadis who joined every time they get entered into the system. They can give you all these details. When was the record created? They can give you how many number of Ahmadis have existed since record keeping started. They can give you that. Since this computerization started, they can give you the total number of Ahmadis who have ever lived.
Right. And you know, when I say that we're smarter than the people who came before us, it's not that I mean that we're smarter. We have better tools to go look up information that didn't exist in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Same thing with researching religion. You know, we can research deeper and get any book these days, and it wasn't always like that. It wasn't always like that. So we have all this. You know, if they were saying in the 1970s, okay, it's 10 million, and we don't have an accurate count. Okay, bro. What about now? Now you can. And Mirza Masroor Ahmad, as soon as he came on, the first thing he did was he knew Mirza Tahir Ahmad lied about the converts. He knew, bro. He knew. So the first thing he did was starting to stop it, you know, and it took some years. And, you know, Asif Basit did an interview in Canada where he talks about how the Khalifa speaks to him so disrespectfully. You wouldn't believe it. I got to cut the clips and to show it. But the Khalifa knows what everyone's doing. Everything Asif Basit does, he goes to the Khalifa first and says, what should I do? How should I do it? So it's totally centralized. Every decision, everything that they do is totally centralized. So, okay.
Definitely. We have seen the WhatsApp messages, Bashir.
Yep.
It's basically it's from top to bottom, like they have a structure that of course it doesn't mean the Khalifa talked to the layman. No, it's basically goes down from the Khalifa to somebody else to those below him, and it's basically like an organization. You don't talk to, like in the university, maybe like the student doesn't talk to the dean directly. They go through maybe their lecturer or whatever the structure you have in that university.
Right.
I know some universities have like an easy access. You can just go to the office, but many of the other places like where I'm at, there's a structure. You don't just go to anybody. You follow up a specific structure.
You gotta go talk to your boss first, bro.
Yeah. Organization. I talk to my supervisor. My supervisor speaks to his boss. His boss speaks to blah blah blah, and then until to the shareholders or the board of directors. You don't just go and talk to the chairman directly.
Yeah. So okay, let's go to the next question. Declan Henry says, well, why are they converting in Africa? and look, this is so funny. Look. This is so funny. Why are they converting in Africa? So he says, look, you guys are offering them free school, free medical, free this, free that. And he says, well, what's wrong with it? He says, what's wrong with that? You know, because we're saying you're not really converting people. You're lying about the converts, and you're telling us the amount of people in your school instead. And you know, the school that they make for government funding, they let the Ahmadiyya movement use it at night for Ahmadiyya events. You see what I mean? So look, the Ahmadiyya movement gets the government to pay for the building. I think they pay for the building themselves. Then once it passes inspection, the government will pay for the building. The government will pay for the tuition, and now they can use that as their own temple and their own private residence also. And so now the government's paid for everything. They're also using money from Ahmadiyya Chanda. You know, I think there was like a Nusrat Jahan fraud scheme. There was like Tariq Jadid. So they're telling Ahmadis, give us money so we can do stuff in Africa. But they're already getting the money from the government. So it's a classic case of double dipping, you know. And then it's so sad what the European nations are doing to Africa. Schools, I think now schools are slowly becoming free, but schools weren't free. So if you have kids, bro, how are they going to learn how to read and write? If you don't learn how to read and write, you can't get a job. You know, technically, almost every job you have to know how to read and write. You know, you got to read an instructional manual. At this point, you have to know how to operate a phone to get a job, because there's going to be some kind of computer at your job or something. So you have to be computer literate and kind of fast to look things up and organize and run a SKU. Right? So, okay.
You know something, Bashir? This is the same strategy that has been used by the Christian missionaries as well.
Yeah, totally.
This is what they do in Africa. They exploit the situation. Actually, not all in Africa, in all poor countries.
Totally. So they took the Christian missionary model, and now they're using it to get converts. And it's like, look, that's not justice. You know, justice is teaching the country of Ghana to do it themselves and not rely on any NGO from any other country. Why are they coming here? Why are they telling you what the curriculum should be? If you're in Ghana, the curriculum should be, depending on where you live, you know, in the north, it's Muslim. So in the north, it's the Islamic curriculum. You know, they should be able to choose. And in the south, I guess they could choose whatever they want, you know, based on whoever's in that area. But as you know, in West Africa, the Muslims are in the north and the Christians are in the south. And then in East Africa, it's the opposite. The Muslims are on the coast, and the indigenous, I think the Christians are also with on the coast, but the indigenous are in the interior. Whereas in West Africa, the indigenous were on the coast of West Africa because Islam hadn't reached there yet. Thoroughly.
Yeah, because Islam came from the Islam came basically from the northern side, like, you know.
Yeah, from the,
and in East Africa, it came through the sea, which is on the east. So they sailed in, so it was easier to just sail in. So they just it started from the coast. Yeah, you're right. On the coast, it's Islam is more prominent. Once the further inside you go, the less Muslims you see, except in Somalia. I think Somalia it goes all the way into Kenya, which is again the northeastern province of Kenya, which is also majority Muslim. Because that's basically because it through Somalia. Right.
And there's a book by Fisher. Everyone needs, if you ever want to read about Ahmadiyya in Africa, you got to read Fisher, 1963. He explains all of this. He explains the whole setup, the whole scam. He explains all of it. And then if you're curious, in West Africa, 90% are Maliki madhab. So they pray with their hands to their sides. And when the Qadianis showed up, this was like a point of contention. It's like, you guys pray Hanafi, we don't. We pray Maliki, which is hands to the side, you know. And then East Africa is Shafi, majority. So is like Indonesia, you know, which is also proves that there was a trade route between East Africa and Indonesia. And okay, but so anyhow, in West Africa, Masroor was there too in Ghana. He was like the principal of a school. He didn't do any work. He never dug a ditch. He never fixed anything. He was the administrator. So now the Africans will admire these guys because they got them an education. You know, some of them, you know, Dibba, Molvi Dibba's in America. He's like, oh, look, I'm in America because of them. If it wasn't for them, I'd be in West Africa, you know, being a chocolate farmer or something like that, because chocolate is like a huge export in West Africa, you know. So okay, let's see what else I got here.
Okay, but you know, I have a feeling that people just, like those who know their tricks, they will just join, and once they get to the West, they will just abandon the ship, you know.
Totally.
I think this happened
so many times. But so he said something else. He said conversion for wives. and this was a little bit confusing. Let me explain this. So in Africa, they're not converting for a wife abroad. The Ahmadiyya movement could help you get a wife. You know, anyone who joins can get a wife. My dad joined, and they got him a wife. So it's part of it. You know, it's like if someone becomes a Muslim, you know, you can go in the masjid. You know, no one's gonna give you their daughter just like that, though. It ain't gonna happen, bro. You know, they're gonna have to know you, right? But converts can marry converts. So in America, that's what I see. Is it's easier for a convert to marry a convert. You know what I mean? But you know, people are, and I'm not mad at them for being stringent with their daughters. Who their daughter's going to marry, this is a big decision. This is an important decision. So they need to observe a human for over a year. You don't just do it on a whim. In the Ahmadiyya movement, they do it on a whim. You know, and in America, in the early 1920s, white people were getting promises of brown wives by Mufti Muhammad Sadiq. There's academic work on this. I got newspapers that are alluding to this. Okay. And then I knew African Americans in America who went to Qadian and married a brown girl and came back. You see what I mean? So, and that's a little exotic for them, you know, to have a different race woman, you know. So it's an incentive, you know. So anyhow, that was the conversion for wives thing, and it's a complicated thing. So all right. And then he says, this is how Islam expanded. Brother Umar, he says Islam expanded the same way. The same way the Qadianis are doing schools and hospitals in West Africa, Islam did the same thing, is what he said. That's ridiculous. Well, where's he getting that from? Asif says that Islamic expansion happened without proper research. He cites the battles. He blames Islam. So this is where he gets into blaming Islam. All right.
This is their job. That if 1 minute they're talking about Islam as a separate religion from Ahmadiyya. The Muslims. Of course, when you say the Muslims, you basically when they use Muslims, they exclude themselves. But then they say, why do you guys call us non-Muslim? And then they want to blame everything on the Muslims, but they want to blame the Muslims excluding Ahmadis. They want to have it both ways.
So then he brings up, he says, hey, how come you guys don't meet the Lahori Ahmadis? You've never debated them. Brother Umar, they're debating us. But they won't debate their own. They won't even allow the Lahori Ahmadis to come to them and ask a question.
This is a very good point, Brother Bashir. You know why? Because right now, they are using the same arguments the Lahoris used against them. You know, right now, you know, during the split, the Lahoris were making arguments that the Qadianis now are using against Imtiaz and Adnan. So that's why they cannot. I mean, the positions, the takfir and all that they used, that time they were denying, and now they're making those arguments. They basically learned from the Lahoris, which is very strange. You know, like I wish some Lahoris could join the stream and say, "Hey, you guys were fighting with our grandfathers. Now why are you stealing our arguments?"
Yeah. No, the Lahoris were right. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's a liability. They said, look, here's what we'll do. Let's take Mirza Ghulam Ahmad out of the picture and just do it. Actually, you know, I would respect them, but they still believe in Mirza Ghulam Ahmad as a Messiah and a Mahdi. They still do. No matter how much they lower it, they're still the second, astaghfirullah, the second coming of Isa to them, alayhi salam. You know, and that's what Brother Imtiaz said in his video today or yesterday. He said, look, they call even Muslims kafir, even if you accept Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's messiahship and Mahdihood and Mujaddid, even if you accept Mirza Ghulam Ahmad as an honest man, you're still a kafir if you don't accept his prophethood. That's why they're takfir. They didn't say it like that. Straight up.
But Bashir, this is the correct position. Technically, this is the Quranic position that whoever denies a prophet of Allah is a kafir. He's a true disbeliever. This is like humul kafiruna haqqa. They are the real disbelievers. You know, you cannot differentiate between the prophets. In this is a prophet. We accept some, and the Quran says they say that we accept some and they reject some. Those are the true disbelievers. I think you say pakka kafir, right? Yeah. So that's what do you need more than this? The Quran says if you reject some prophets and accept some prophets, that is a true disbeliever. Like I don't know if there's any other place in the Quran where the word true disbeliever has been used other than this. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on the Quran, so maybe there is, but I'm not aware of any.
Right. So since the Lahori Ahmadis deny the prophethood of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, they got rid of him. They said they're not. They even said this Ahmadi told me the definition of an Ahmadi is someone who accepts the Khilafat. And I was like, where's the definition? Because you look, they'll say, what's the definition of a Muslim? Bro, there is the like 5 pillars of Islam, 6 articles of faith. It's in the Quran, it's in the Hadith, et cetera, et cetera. And there's other statements, all put together, amalgamated, etc. We can come up with what's the definition of an Ahmadi, and they won't be able to. They'll say one who accepts the Khilafat. Where's that written at? Oh, it just is. It just is.
No, these guys they fail to understand that Islam has always been there since the beginning. So there's like they think that Rasulullah ﷺ came and on the previous verse came. Okay, the definition of Islam is they think they're in class. No, that's not how it is. They taught Islam. The definition of Islam is what they taught. The message of Allah, this is accepting Allah and His messengers and their message, that is basically Islam. Everything else, whatever definition you can come up with, has to come into that. That it goes back to accepting the Tawheed, that Allah is the only true God and His messengers were sent. You accept their messages. Rejecting their messages is making you a kafir. Rejecting a message that comes from Allah through His prophets makes you a kafir. I mean, as long as we have to prove that it's a message from Allah, we cannot just accept anybody who says he's a prophet and say that that's the message. No, if we cannot authentically link that message to that prophet, and of course by it being linked to that prophet, a teaching of the prophet, it means it came from Allah. Once you establish that, you have no choice but to accept it. You reject part of the message of Allah, then you're a kafir. You cannot say I believe in Allah, but I also believe in another God. Oh yeah, but I believe everything that Allah taught us through His messengers, but I also believe in another God. No, then you're not a Muslim. Because part of believing in Allah is rejecting false doctrines. Part of being a Muslim is rejecting false doctrines. You cannot be a Hindu and a Muslim at the same time. Just like you cannot be a Muslim and a Qadian at the same time.
Totally. So okay, all right. Moving on here. He said, Asif Basit, he admits that the Lahoris called him Qadiani. This was funny to me. And look, he calls him Lahori, and he called Sheikh Asrar a Barelvi. Well, they don't call themselves. Barelvi is the city that their leader was born in. Same thing with the Deobandi. It's that city, Deoband, that it's like a slur. They don't call themselves that. So Brother Umar, they cry about being called a Qadiani, but they call people Barelvi, they call people Lahori. Pegami is another thing that they call the Lahoris, since they hate them. They use all these terms for people, and then they started crying after they moved to Pakistan. Why do they call us Qadianis? That's so ironic. And
Bashir, the problem with these people is that they say Qadiani is an offensive term, but this is basically, we just use it to differentiate them from the rest of the Ahmadis. Because we can call the Lahoris. They have no problem with it because we don't mean it we just mean it in a way that to differentiate them from the Qadianis. I mean, they act like they always try to play the victim card. That's the problem.
Yeah, victim.
What we call them Mirzais, they get angry. They call them Qadianis, they get angry. We cannot call you Ahmadis because you're playing tricks with the name of the name Ahmadi. We do use this term, but we only referring to the layman Ahmadis, basically to know that we acknowledge that you guys call that way. But actually, we consider you Qadianis when we are talking in the context of differentiating you with the rest of the guys who call them Ahmadis. But you guys say Ahmadis. I think they use it to mean that Ahmad is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's what it refers to. And when you say that, we know, like from the previous streams, the recent streams, that you mean that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We don't accept that.
Right. So hold on. You ready for the next one? Okay. So the guy who doesn't know how many Ahmadis there are in the world, he knows that there's more Lahori Ahmadis in Fiji than Qadiani Ahmadis in Fiji. How does he know that? So somehow he knows.
You know about Fiji, right? The recent video.
Yeah. I seen the video, and yeah, he's right. there's more Lahori Ahmadis in Fiji and in Suriname, South. Those are the two countries where there's more Lahori Ahmadis than Qadiani Ahmadis. So they're the major brand. And you know what's funny? His cousin is Akber Chaudhary, Asif Basit, on his mother's side. What was I going to say? Yeah. So he knows that there's more Lahori Ahmadis in Fiji, but he doesn't know the total number in the world. How does he know like such a specific thing, right? But he doesn't know the other thing. So again, caught in a contradiction. Hilarious. Totally hilarious. Yeah, just like in Suriname. In Suriname, there's more Lahori Qadiani. And look, some people don't even call them Lahori Ahmadis. They call them Lahori Qadianis. I thought that was pretty funny, but okay. See what else? What else we got here?
That is actually a good reason we should differentiate them. I see what is a Qadiani Lahori or Lahori Qadianis. Yeah, there's people who call the Lahoris Qadianis because they don't know the difference. So you should be happy that we are making the difference clear for you guys, for them. I mean,
right. It's a huge difference for a person who believes Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's a prophet versus not. That's a big difference. So we got to make sure we're talking about the right people. So, okay, then is Ahmadiyya a cult? He says all religions are cults. He says Muslims started off as a cult, bro. But there's a guy named Professor Lipton. If you look up Lipton's criteria on cults, he gave a total. Here, I'll post it in like the public chat. Check out Dr. Lipton, and of course, I don't agree with everything he says. But in terms of cults, if you want to know if Ahmadiyya is a cult, and you know the first thing he brings up is control. They control the information, and etc. And look, Brother Umar, wasn't Imam Abu Hanifa put in jail because he disagreed with the Khalifa or something like that? Can you confirm?
Many scholars were put in jail. I think even Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal.
I think
many scholars.
Maliki, was it Maliki? Weren't his arms broken or something?
I'm not sure about Imam Malik, because I know Imam Ahmad was put in jail and Imam Abu Hanifa as well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about the rest. Culture, bro. Look, if you're an Islamic scholar and the government does something un-Islamic, you have a responsibility to say something. So,
okay, and by the way, that thing about the cult saying, did he say Islam is a cult, started as a cult? That's a very stupid thing to say, because I mean, the defining factor of a cult is the devotion to a specific leader, or basically that's the significant, that there's the leader, that for it was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and now it's their Khalifa. That's the defining factor, if I'm not mistaken. Saying that being dedicated to Tawheed is the ideology of Tawheed. That was the beginning. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was never like, when he started preaching, that was the first message for his first 10 years, I think, before the Hijrah. It was all about Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. That was the only thing that he preached. I mean, the main thing that he preached. How do you call that a cult? How do you say that Islam started as a cult? That's an insult to Islam.
Right. Come on, guys. Islam is it encompasses your whole life. It's your government. It's not just something you do with an NGO as a non-profit. So yeah, he went down that road, bro, where he just, anytime he gets blamed, he blames Islam. So then he talks about why are all the Ahmadi Khalifas the sons of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad? He says, well, same thing in Islam. He says all the Khalifas, astaghfirullah, were relatives of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not true. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was not a relative. He was a father-in-law, but that's not a blood relative. And Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu was also a father-in-law. Usman radiallahu anhu was a son-in-law. And of course, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu was his cousin brother and his son-in-law. So, Brother Umar, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but they want to play that, they're still family. Are you telling, then now they're going to give you an Ilzami jawab. Are you saying your brother-in-law is not your family? Are you saying your father-in-law is not your family? But of course, what the guy, the interviewers meant is that they're all blood relatives. They're like direct descendants of MGA.
Right, sons. And you know, in
Sons,
Islam,
and then sons of sons.
sons of,
Like
and look,
except
in
no.
Islam, this was not even allowed because Allah made Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam the last prophet. There was no more boys to even, you know, so it wasn't even it was so against Islam that it was done away with in total, right? So okay,
Yeah, that door was closed.
the door was closed. It's not going to happen. You can't even make that accusation. You know what I mean? So okay. That was.
I think you would have met a better defense. I think you would have met a better defense if you said, "Oh, Hakim Nuruddin was not his relative."
Right. He didn't even say that.
He didn't even say that. I mean,
then he said, "No, they're elected," and Declan says, "Oh yes, they're also elected in Russia." That was funny. That was the funniest thing. That was the funniest thing in the whole interview. Like, oh, they're elected. Well, show us the election results. They're not going to show us. Who voted for whom? They're not going to show us. Doors are closed. Cell phones confiscated. That's an election? You call that an election, man? Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Bashir, were you an Ahmadi in 2003? Were you an Ahmadi in 2003?
Yeah, of course.
Did you have a dream that Mirza Masroor will be the next Khalifa?
No. So I was,
they say thousands of people have dreams, and then of the Khalifa.
Yeah. So let me tell you where I was in 2003. In 2003, it was the Iraq War when the Khalifa died. So I was in the UAE in Abu Dhabi fixing airplanes on behalf of the U.S. government, and I heard the Khalifa died. I didn't know until I came back. You know, 21 years ago, news didn't travel fast. I don't think I knew until I came back and someone told me. And I think I came back like June 2003. And they were like, oh, yeah, the Khalifa died. I was like, oh, so what does that mean? I was like, I don't know. Oh, it's a new one. Oh, okay. And then look, 3 years later, I went to the temple and I asked a question. And the Murabbi says, you're not even an Ahmadi. I was like, what? What are you talking about? I'm just asking a question. When did, and I think we lost him. Who is this? Okay, Brother Umar. So okay, brother, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Because I'm on my phone, and when somebody calls, I get disconnected sometimes.
Yeah, so let me tell you the story. So in 2006, I started asking questions at the local temple, Ahmadiyya temple, and the question that I asked was, you know, when did Mirza Ghulam Ahmad change on his prophethood? The Murabbi says, you know what his answer is? You're not an Ahmadi. I was like, what? What are you talking about? How am I not? I was born an Ahmadi. He goes, no, you didn't renew your bath. I was like, when am I supposed to renew? What is he talking about? I'm asking questions about the dogma, and this guy is saying I'm not one of them. I was like, that's so disrespectful, and that was my first red flag.
It's like Netflix. You don't pay, they cancel a subscription.
Right, but so he says, no, you didn't renew your bath in 2003 when the new Khalifa came. So I end up finding out if your father renews his bath, his children, unmarried children, would fall underneath that. They would accept that. And I'm like, bro, I went to Rebel and got married, and you guys signed off on me being an Ahmadi. So I was like, why did you say that in front of everyone? And he didn't really have an answer. You know, really, he should have got punched in the face. But that's how disrespectful these people are. If you're asking questions, they'll say these things because they don't know the answer. And he didn't know the answer. He didn't know about the bro. He's an older man. At the time, he was in his 50s. You think he read all the books that we read? You know what I mean? You think he's seen all the data that just Imtiaz has showed? No way. No way. He had no idea of any of it. So anyways, just a quick story. So all right, let's get back to the questions, and I got to start flying through it. So let's see. Oh, and we're about halfway through the questions. Oh, and we got someone else in here. Let me just see who this is. Oh, and they left. Okay. So all right. He comes to the year of birth, bro. And he wrote in his book 1835. I think he misspoke and said 1935, but he meant 1835. And then You know what's funny about this, brother Umar? The Lahori Ahmadis call the Qadianis thieves, liars, thieves, all that, but they accept their research on the year of birth of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. How about that?
Why? I don't know why do the Lahoris care so much about they shouldn't be caring about the date of birth. It doesn't matter to them, right?
But they accepted the Qadiani research. So Molvi Muhammad Ali, in one of his first books, 1915, I think, a book on like Hazrat Ahmad. I can't remember. Astaghfirullah. I can't remember the name of the book, but he wrote 1839. How funny is that? In his first book.
Yeah.
His first book.
Yeah, I think I saw a tweet today about that. I saw a tweet about the census of India in of 1912. They were saying that Ahmadiyya sect was founded by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who was born in 1839. By the way, Bashir, there's research that Imtiaz has done regarding Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's age that he has not presented yet. He actually challenged Razi in one of the earlier streams and said, you bring your research of your KM2 and I'll bring my research and then we'll let the public decide. Yeah. Razi ran and he never brought that topic again until they never mentioned the challenge. He referred to him, I accept your challenge, debate me on the death of Easter. You know?
Yeah. And that's hilarious. That's hilarious. So look, I tracked it to an extreme on this topic because this has nothing to do with religious dogma. So I don't need to be able to read some Arabic script, some older Arabic or something like that. You know what I mean? This is something can be solved in the English, and they totally lied. Everything on this is a lie. So that there's a lot of data. I don't want to spoil it. Declan has been lied to. 1835 would not even match up. Even look. They said he was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was born in the month of Palguna, which is like a Punjabi month system or something like that. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad never even said that. He never said it. After he died, Mufti Muhammad Sadiq, the big editor, the one who married multiple like white women and had this fascination and etc. He says, oh no, one time he said he was born in the month of Palguna, and that can only be 1835. Well, we looked it up. It can be 1839 also. So, and it wasn't 1835, it was 1836. It could match up. Anyways, let's keep rolling here. Let's keep rolling. Oh, and he lied about something. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said he mixed up two comments. All right, let me just bring this on the screen real quick. I put it in the wrong place. Oh, okay. Okay, he said during the latter part of Ranjit Singh's rule, his father moved back to Qadian. Not Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was born. This is in the Punjab Chiefs. Okay, so the latter portion of Ranjit Singh's life is the 1830s. He died in 1839. So it could be 1835 to 1839 or 1830. Where was his brother born? Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's brother, Mirza Ghulam Qadir. Where was he born? The city's not listed. The city's not even listed. So there's a lot going on there. And then here's the second statement that he tried to, and this is from Kitab al-Bariya, right? There was another statement by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad himself. Oh, he said he was born. Okay, check this out. Look at how he twisted this one, bro. So this is from the Punjab Chiefs, okay? This is from Kitab al-Bariya, 1897, 1898. He says, during the latter part of Sikh rule. Well, Sikh rule didn't end until 1849. So what's the latter part of Sikh rule, Brother Umar? It ran from 1800 to 1849. What's the latter part? The last 10 years? The last 5 years?
It lasted from, come again?
From like 1800, it might be like 1790, but it's like 1790 to 1850-ish. So it's like 60 years.
So that's 60 years. So the latter part, if you take, that will be the last part. How many divisions? You have 4. Then the last that will be the last.
So the last decade of Sikh rule was the 1840s. That was the
Of course.
final decade. So there it is. But he sort of spun it, and he mixed the two references in typical Ahmadi style. Okay, then.
Yeah, but we have his own words that, like Imtiaz showed, from his own words. We can discard all these other people's research because we have his own words. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad saying, "I was this age at this age," and that's what Imtiaz used.
Right, and so he was like, "Oh, you can't believe that, bro." Mirza Ghulam Ahmad worked in records, in case logging, in Sialkot in his youth. Okay, he's in the paperwork. Okay, so and so has a court date on this date and this time. Okay, so and so has a court date on this day, on this other day. He's got all these court dates that he's managing. He doesn't know the date of his birth. Or not the date, sorry, the year of his birth. Come on, guys. Right? So keep lying. We don't care. It doesn't bother us. Okay, so then he said he unified the Mahdi and the Messiah concept. Well, why did it need to be unified? It doesn't need to be unified. It's two totally different concepts. So that was a strange comment. Then he says, well, hey, is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad for Christians? And he says, yeah. He goes, well, you ain't doing too good because most Christians haven't even heard of him. He goes, well, it took Christians 300 years for Christianity. So he's comparing his mission with Christianity. How funny is that? And this is why Mirza Ghulam Ahmad gave the 300-year prediction. He said Ahmadiyya would take over the world in 300 years. Same as Christianity. Because it took Christianity like 300 years to become like popular or something like that. So, all right. And he says, it's been 100 years. What's taken so long? You guys got all this money. You're not a poor community. So this was interesting. He said, not a poor community. He said, look at the Catholic Church. You guys are rich. You guys are rich, right? He's like, again, he's pointing the thumb. Oh, you point a finger at me? I'm going to point 10 at you. You guys are rich. And then he says, MTA is so expensive. Brother Umar, how many people have a satellite TV channel in 2024? Is it even needed?
No, everybody's on YouTube and everybody's following, is using the internet basically.
So what's the purpose of MTA? And I'll tell you something interesting. When the Temple Futuh was on fire, I think it was on fire like 10 years ago, he said some of the MTA archives burned. Some of the old videos burned, and etc. So they moved it to the Fuzzle Temple. But most of the employees are cheap. You know what I mean? So the entire MTA is just a waste of money at this time. Who's watching There's no need to watch satellite anything because everything's on YouTube. The only things that aren't on YouTube are like sports games. Well, I'm not sure the rest of the world. In America, if you want to watch a local sports game, it ain't on YouTube, bro. Is it like that where you're at?
Yeah, it's on satellite. It's on satellite.
Yeah, so we have cable.
You need a subscription. You need a subscription and to watch. Because that's they need the money to pay those teams.
Right. So
hey, you can still stream it online if you pay, but I don't think anybody's gonna pay if they made an MTA subscriber based.
Yeah. So let me go backwards. This is the reason they lied about converts. Mirza Tahir Ahmad was dying of cancer, so as a send off, they lied about converts to make him feel big and special. They said, look at everything you did. Via MTA, we reached the world. Now we're brainwashing the world. People are joining. Mirza Tahir Ahmad, you're so great. Look what you did. It was all a lie. It was all a charade. That's their leader. They kiss his hand, they kiss his feet, and they made up these lies. What the heck, man? What the heck? So your satellite TV is now a waste of money. Fire the staff. Okay. Then he starts talking about Islam is a terrorist religion, brother. Like this part. So now it starts getting bad. He starts really getting defensive, bro. And he says Islam is known as a terrorist religion. And he says Masroor's working hard. He's been working hard since 2003. Yada yada yada. Disrespectful. Then Declan tells him, well, Muslims are never going to accept MTA. What do you have to say about that? You know, Muslims aren't accepting this guy. So Asif says if any person, even Ahmadi, he says Ahmadis will come back. He said even the Ahmadis that left are coming back. He says anyone who rejects the physical return of Isa alayhi salam will eventually join Ahmadiyya. Not true. What about the Lahoris?
Brother Bashir, just quickly, please do me one favor. Go to YouTube and type Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Tell me what's the results that you see.
All right, let's see. I'm sharing my screen.
On the first page, like imagine like if you tell anybody about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad now, I'm sure they'll go and like look it up, right?
So let's see.
On YouTube and. But maybe okay, maybe because you are subscribed to these people, maybe it will show different results. But I'll just tell anybody who is watching, like go open and just search. And I'm using like a private tab. The first result I got is a Farid response: failed prophecies of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. That's the first result. Can you imagine like people who the first time you tell somebody about the promised Messiah, we have this promised Messiah, his name is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. He goes back home and Googles that. And YouTube that if I failed prophecies of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. That's the first result. Do you think this is going to make you be the majority, like convert 2 billion people in 300 years? We're already halfway there, almost halfway there.
Right. Well, they tried, and they tried to make it look like people were converting. No one converted, bro. It's a waste of money. It's a colossal waste of money. The biggest waste of money, you know, you're better off giving to Islamic organizations, and their money goes straight to the Muslims in war-torn areas. There's no intermediary. There's no misdirecting of the money. You know, most Muslim organizations in America, the first thing that we do is build our own masjid, bro.
Yeah, and actually,
then we're good.
Bashir, I know people who were not. I mean, they eventually became ex-Ahmadis, but when they were still Ahmadis, they said that they didn't pay the chanda. When they asked them, they said, "I donated to Gaza." You know, I was really touched, and that's one of the guys. I knew that's like he's a step towards leaving this cult. Like the first, he said, "No, I didn't pay chanda last month." When they asked me, I said that. I said the last time they asked him about the chanda, he said he already donated to Gaza. I was really touched, and Alhamdulillah, the brother left Ahmadiyya and he's now a Muslim.
Right. So in terms of, I'm not sure about other countries, but my experience in 7 years, all the masjids that I went to, Sunni, Ali Sunnah wa Jamaat. I've been to a Shia masjid once and I left, but because I figured out what it was. I also went to a liberal masjid once and I left. I was like, well, what's going on here? But Ali Sunnah wa Jamaat, the vast majority are 90% in California. The masjids are Ali Sunnah wa Jamaat. And the first thing that we're concerned with is buying our own masjid. You know, not paying any interest, collecting all the money, paying it all at once, you know, or maybe you using an Islamic bank so we don't have to pay interest. Once that's done, then we have to pay our imam every month and the basic maintenance fees of the masjid, which, you know, you got to clean up. We need equipment. We need to start a school. We need to do all that. Then there's, you know, different Muslim groups will come, Gaza, Afghanistan, etc., and then you can give money to whoever you want. There's no membership, bro. There ain't no membership.
Yeah.
There ain't no tax. So you know, for many years, I was like, okay, is chanda sadaqah? It's not, because it's not even going to the poor. It's going to for the maintenance of the murabbis and their families and the Khalifa and all that. So all right. So this was sort of weird. He said all of Adnan's ancestors had been waiting for the Messiah. He didn't say Ali Hadith elders, but he says that they were all saying he's coming. He's supposed to come now. He's supposed to come now. Well, there was like one guy who gave MGA a lot of money. He was married to the Nawab of Bhopal, Sadiq Hassan Khan, and I think he had said the Mahdi. He said that this is many people have postulated as such. It's the time for the Mahdi, right? Even in Sudan, there was a Sudanese Mahdi. The Mahdi is going to come when Muslims are in trouble. That's just in general.
Bashir, I'll tell you something. 300 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people said it's the time for the Mahdi. 500 years, people said it's the time for the Mahdi, and so on and so on. We have heard Mahdi claimants throughout history. Each of them came. I'm telling you, in 100 years, there'll be people saying that it was in 2024, we had so and so said it was the time of the Mahdi, and that's why that clown from the UK claimed to be the Mahdi. It happens every 100 years. It's not like something special that 100 years ago or 120 years ago that people said it's the time for the Mahdi. No, people have been saying this throughout history. So why should we listen to the people who said it 130 years ago and not listen to the people who said it 500 years ago? Why? Just because some clown from Qadian claimed to be the Mahdi? No, we're not going to accept that. Then we should accept the ones before that. They have a stronger claim. They came before. Your Mahdi was a copycat.
Totally. Then he says, and so now he's on the defensive, so he's getting disrespectful. He mocks the descent of Isa alayhi salam on the minaret in Damascus, which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, right? Via Abu Huraira, if I remember correctly. He says, "Oh, you Muslims are waiting." He says, "Muslims." So then he gets into the firqa thing, right? You need to sort out your own problems first, Sunni versus Shia. Which, look, I'll tell you guys, what's going. The Shiaism and the rise of Shiaism has to do with the Russians. Period. It's a whole different topic, but look that up. There were no Shia governments. I think the Fatimid, which was like a 20-year, but we don't have any books from them. We don't know what they are. They never had any Khilafat other than that ever until the Portuguese arrived in the Gulf, in the Arab Gulf states, and to fight off the port. So I don't want to go into that, but okay. He said that. He said the same thing. You Muslims need to figure out your own problems first, right? And then he said, Ahmadis are doing three things. First he said it's two things. Then he said it's three things. And who is this brother? Hold on, let me see who this is. Let me just post this question. He's he's disrespecting the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says Ahmadis are defending Islam. They are dispelling misconceptions about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Astaghfirullah, it's a lie. And then the message of MGA. He says this is what they're doing. Well, it ain't working. It ain't helping. So let's see who this is. Assalamu alaikum.
I think that's Rauf.
Brother.
Brother Rauf, assalamu alaikum, brother. Welcome. I'm just putting questions on the screen. Feel free to chime in. We're short on time here, so I'm flying through the last bit of questions, brother.
Okay, brother, no problem. You do you.
Okay, so he says, check this out. He says, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was a schizophrenic. Period. This is not up for debate. He would just fall and see black things go up, and etc. So he says, no. So was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Na'udhu billah. And he says that all prophets were called crazy. And he says this is a blessing. But Brother Umar, I looked up the verse. It's 51-52. This is not referring to Nabi. This is referring to Rasul. And Rasul is different from Nabi. Okay? And Dawood alayhi salam was never, he was a king prophet, right? Brother Umar, can you confirm?
Yeah, he was not a Rasul. But the Qadianis don't accept that, right? The Qadianis say it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. But look, this verse actually disproves them. Because not every prophet was called a madman. It's just not true. I think...
No, it's not true. It's not true. Who called... Okay, I would ask for the evidence. I will ask that for the evidence. Who called Adam a madman? Who called Nuh mad? Who called each and every prophet mad? No, not necessarily.
Now, a Rasul who sent to a hostile nation, that hostile nation never accepted him like that. It was always something going on. And a lot of the Rasuls, if you reject the Rasul, there was punishment. Like the many cases that are even with Nuh alayhi salam, there was a big punishment for not accepting him. So, you know, he said that though. He quoted 51, 52, said that. Well, he didn't give the verse number. Like, how could he, right? And then he said, "Oh, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was crazy. He blames Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't have these problems. He saw the angel Gabriel, and Angel Gabriel told him the Quran. I think the first night he was a bit shook up." But other than that, there was no trances and etc. And then he says that they had ESP. He said all prophets had extra sensory perception. Brother Umar, what is he talking about?
No idea. No idea where he came with that.
Brother Raouf, what is this guy talking about? Prophets have ESP? No, they don't. They have an angel coming to them. His name was Gabriel.
No, this probably came from his teachy.
I think it's to try and make it fit their naturalistic, atheistic beliefs.
Like, brother,
so, this is downplaying the fact that Jibril alayhi salam brought the revelation. This is downplaying, trying to give it some explanation. And I'm sure that there's some stuff they're not telling us. I'm sure that because they don't believe in miracles. Let's not beat about it. They don't believe in miracles. They only believe in miracles which are not miracles. That's the only type of miracles they believe in. The miracle that they can explain it very easily to every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
No, brother, I think they only believe in miracles which Mirza says is a miracle. If Mirza says it's not a miracle, they don't believe it because he is the Hakam min Adal, and everything he translate or any hadith he says is the truth. That's what they believe in.
Right, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said none of the miracles were true. He called them all a rare scientific, like something rare that happened. Phenomenon, rare scientific phenomenon. He rejected all of them. So of course he rejects the angels, but he forgets about subatomic, about the atom. Some things are invisible or almost invisible, but they're all around us. Oxygen is like invisible. You can't see it. The wind is almost invisible. So if Allah is sending an angel from Jannah, it's totally possible. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad rejected that. And then towards the end, he said he saw Ayal, but he didn't say exactly for what, so.
Just a quick correction. When I said earlier that the Quran says that that none of we didn't send a messenger except that he was called a madman or a magician, sahirun or majnun. Yeah, we accept that because the Quran said that. Even though what I meant is we don't have the evidence of each and every messenger being called. Like I said, Adam, we don't know who called him. We don't have evidence of that. But yeah, we accept it because the Quran said it. That's it. And if you apply these principles, you basically destroy Qadianism. Whether your brain accepts it or not, you just accept it because the Quran said it. And that's how it should be.
That's how it should be. And remember, the verse says Rasul. So a Rasul has a mission to a hostile nation. If you look up all the Rasul, none of them had it easy. They all had the hardest job, whereas some of the Nabis had easier jobs. You know what I mean? It wasn't, some were sent to their own people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Nabis, in general, in Sunni tradition, is that the Rasul is, every Rasul is a Nabi, but not every Nabi is a Rasul. Some of them have their own expression, like if he came with a law, then he's a Rasul. Some of them say, like you said, if he was sent to a hostile nation. Yeah, but in general, the Nabi has his task was, like you said, easier, generally easier.
Yeah, generally easier. And, there's so much evidence of this. And this is something I learned over the years talking to different imams and hearing their answer. And it took me years to figure this out, but eventually it was figured out. And remember, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was calling himself a Rasul in Brahini Ahmadiyya, bro. Early on, he's calling himself a Rasul, and he didn't clarify that his opinion is Rasul equals Nabi until 1901. So for 20 years, he's calling himself a Rasul and saying, not even saying it's metaphoric. He said Nabi was metaphoric. I think he might have said the Rasul was also a metaphoric, but none of the Sufis called him. I mean, but you know, the word Rasul was also used for the angels. You know, I think Jibreel al-Aslam is also called a Rasul. So it could be used in a general sense. Same way the word Wahi and Ilham, you know, Wahi is used in the Quran in a general sense, not in the sense of the prophetic revelation to prophets.
And you have to understand, Bashir, there is some linguistic usage and Shari'i usage. You know, if you use it as a language, Rasul is just a messenger. A Rasul is a messenger. That's the Arabic meaning. So because Jibril, if you say he's a messenger, he's been sent down as a messenger, no problem. We accept that. But there's when you're talking about in terms of prophethood, then it has a different meaning.
Right. So okay, let's move on, and we're almost done. Here's the next one. I think it's going to come in two split comments. MGA had so he says no. Here's the reason MGA is correct. And Declan's like, oh, what is it? He started from a village in Qadian, and look, he spread to the world. Well, bro. So did Pepsi. So did these like alcoholic mixtures. Now they're all, you know, rum was made in the Caribbean, and now it's all around the world. And apparently, it's just sugar. Like old sugar. Why would anyone want to consume that? But anyhow, he says MGA had no resources. He didn't know it. Bro, he's got the post office in Qadian. That's like having internet access. Okay? He worked in a British court for 7. Brother Umar, did you know I was saying Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was only in Sialkot 4 years. Turns out he was there 7 to 8. Double the amount of time. Now, that's a big difference. Being somewhere 4 years and 8 is a big difference, because when you're there for 8 years, you're like a senior employee at this point. In 4 years, you could be a journeyman, but once you hit 7, 8, you're an expert. You're at an expert's level. Okay. Brahini Ahmadiyya, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad sent a letter to to an English newspaper in Madras. I can't remember off the top of my head. They published his announcement in that newspaper. Alexander Webb read it. That's how he learned about Ahmadiyyas. Okay, so this guy is sending his stuff. Look, he was sending his death challenge to Dowie into all the American newspapers. That's like 40 newspapers. He sent this to them. So what is he talking about? No resources. You know, his daddy's rich. His family owns all this land. What do you mean he's got no resources? Like, what is this guy talking about? You know,
Bashir, today, if somebody comes today and claims to be a prophet, he can easily just buy Google ads and say that just post these ads everywhere all over the world and just get one follower from each country and say, I have reached. Just pay that follower. Just tell the guy, if you join my religion, as long as if you're from a unique country, out of the 220 plus countries, or I don't know, 215, whatever, depending on the classification, just pay them $10 there. Then you say my message reached everywhere. Is that the criteria? Just using Google, you can spread your new religion, which you came up with before 1 week, and spread it everywhere. That is not how that's not the correct criteria.
Right, and where's the hadith that says the Mahdi and the Messiah is going to send out advertisements?
Oh, they'll find. No, he'll come up with their own prophecy. The guy who comes up with the religion, he'll make the prophecy and say, this is how my prophecy was filled. See, I was right.
Look, so they said, let's take a picture of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad where he looks like he's high on drugs, by the way. Sorry, Mazda. His eyes are barely open. And now they put it on a bus, on buses in England, on billboards. I saw it on a billboard in California. Who's the seat guy? Who's this, who's the Siddhartha of the road? Who's the Siddhartha?
I don't know who it is.
By the way, Bashir, I'm saying this live on stream. Wallahi, billahi wa tallahi. The first time I saw Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's photo, I thought it's a Sikh guy, like you said. Wallahi, I never thought it's a Muslim.
You know, make you want to walk up, Sadar Ji kidan. You're like, oh no, he's not a Sikh. So okay, all right. Um, so then they bring up. So remember, he lived with the Lahoris in Lahore. I don't know if he lived with them or he had his own hotel. He probably had his own hotel, right? Right. For a white guy to go and live with some Pakistanis could be a little weird. You know what I mean? Like I don't know, especially a Christian living with pseudo Muslims. I don't know if that would work. But okay. You know, the Lahori Ahmadis have their women give speeches in front of their men. They intermingle. Not a big deal to them. So he says, no, there's a woman called Sakina Nisa. So I looked her up. Okay, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's daughters didn't get any education. They didn't go to any schools. So they didn't go to her school. Apparently she had a school in Qadian after they grew up. And she was teaching some women something. But what does that have to do with the question? Then they bring up Begum Shafi Ahmed. Let me show you who this is. So, Brother Umar, you know what's funny about her? She was a Muslim woman and didn't even know that's her right there. She didn't even know her husband. She got married. Come to find out, her husband is a Qadiani. She's like, oh, I didn't know. So then her nikah is broken. Muslims tell her, you don't have a nikah. That's like a boyfriend thing. Who read the nikah? A Qadiani? That don't count. So her son ends up being, check this out, her son, and let me see if I have his photo. I don't have his photo. I still got to write about him. Her son ended up being the Indian representative at the United Nations. For like 20, 30 years, there was a Qadiani Ahmadi representing the government of India to the United Nations. How? How does this happen? Right? Again, it's because they've made political inroads, you know, and their guy is promoted in some way. Somehow, their guy is going to be promoted. And you know what else she did? In 1947, the Khalifa didn't leave Qadian immediately at the partition. He wanted to stay. The rioting was they threw a grenade into the Temple Aqsa. They were killing. It was wild, bro. So the Khalifa's like, we got to get the hell out of here. We're about to get killed. So she went to Gandhi, and I'm not sure if it was Gandhi, maybe some other in Delhi at the capital. Qadian's in trouble. Send us help, and they sent some help. So she ended up working with him and helping him out, and look how her son got all the benefit. All right. So okay, and I'm almost done. Then he starts talking about jihad, and you know, he says he appreciates that the Ahmadiyya movement is against jihad, right? And then, you know, they start blaming Muslims again. It's pretty sad. Then he brings up Karim Khan, and he says, you know, Karim Khan, he's not doing this because he's an Ahmadi. This is his own personal volition, or whatever he wants to call it, his own personal opinions. Wrong. The only reason Karim Khan's got that job is because he's a Qadiani Ahmadi. Period. They're doing the dirty work. They got these guys everywhere. Dr. Abdul Salam, his entire goal was to put Ahmadis in positions of power around the world. This is their goal. So, all right. Then he brings up the young Ahmadis. He says, what about the young Ahmadis?
Bashir, before you get to that, you know, he clearly says the way it is, he called the Hamas, he called them terrorists. And then he tried to tell him, why don't you ask me about the opponents? And I wish he had asked, he had pushed him on that, and see, I would have loved to hear what his answer was. I'm sure he would have waffled a lot. Yeah, but I don't know why he didn't ask. Or maybe he did, but it was edited out. We don't know. It wasn't live.
It was not live. And I don't know if in the UK, if it's even legal to call Israel a terrorist country. You know, in some countries, it's not even legal, bro, to say that.
Oh.
You could say that and get in trouble. I think, actually, I'm not sure. But Israel's, I think Declan said that they committed a genocide. So, yeah, at the minimum, very interesting. All right, and then, okay, so then he starts talking about young Ahmadis. He admits that there's challenges. That was interesting. And then he said, Ahmadis who leave are like boomerangs. Brother, what is he talking about? Why did he say Ahmadis that leave are all going to come back? He said they're like boomerangs. He says once you believe that Isa alayhi salam is dead, you can never recover. He says it's not possible. It's not. So this is their mindset. Is they say once you believe this, you can't. That's why a lot of these guys are stuck on this.
Well, Damon, we have a case of Damon recently. He had the same belief, and Alhamdulillah, we never gave up on him. As soon as he left Ahmadiyya, he became an atheist. And I told him that eventually, I remember that eventually he'll come back to Islam, because I have seen the way you communicate. And he was like, had the same mindset. And how can you go back from being an atheist? I mean, he considered himself a Muslim. He left that version of what he thought was Islam, and then he was like, I'm an atheist now. I don't believe there is God. I don't believe in all this so-called fairy tales. But he still came back. Because he got the iman that after reading, he said, there's no way that I can restrict God. The Sunni concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is different from the Ahmadiyya. The Sunni concept is God. If Allah needs something, it doesn't need to put any effort. Kun fayakun, be and it is. It's beyond our understanding. The powers, the power of Allah, the power of Allah is much more than what we can imagine. We cannot even begin to imagine. That Allah just needs, the creator of this universe just needs to say be and it is. Whether you understand it or not, whether I understand it or not, whether I can accept it or not, that is not relevant. Allah can, and He can do whatever He wants to do. He just says be and it is. So once you accept that Allah is the all-powerful, then it becomes easier to accept these other things, that basically miracles. These are miracles. You don't have to understand how things happen. If Allah can make a tiny piece of dot that once you zoom in, it has a fully functioning body, it has its own mechanism, the amoeba and all those bacteria, why can't He do something that just keeping somebody alive for 2,000 years or 10,000 years or 50,000 years? Why can't He not? This is Allah. Why are you restricting your God? So once he accepted that Allah is the most powerful, he came back and believes. So this is a false claim that he made, and it's been disproven. We have living evidence that shows that no, people do come back to Islam after believing that, after getting cheated that Isa alayhi salam is dead.
Right. Look, and I tell people all you got to do is look into the atom. Who put the electron, the neutron, and the proton and created this whole system? It could not have happened on accident. This is not an accident. Just look at the atom. And I'll tell you what, it's a lot of atheists who found the atom. And they still can't accept that that there's a designer. That's weird. You're telling me a femtometer, which is like 10 to the negative 15th power in like size, you think this happened on accident? You must be crazy. Every mountain on earth was placed perfectly in terms of collecting water, because humans needed water onto the land. So even in Saudi Arabia, brother, there's mountains on the coast where Mecca is, right?
Yeah, nearby. Mecca, there is mountains. Yeah, of course.
And south of Mecca, about 100 miles or 50 miles, it's the wettest place in Saudi Arabia.
In Abha, Abha, that's south of Saudi Arabia. Very beautiful weather there.
And I think like coffee, a lot of coffee started there, was cultivated there, So every mountain was placed perfectly. The Himalaya mountains catch all the water that's evaporated off the Indian Ocean. It catches it, freezes it, and it rolls in for everyone in India. If it wasn't for that, India would be a desert, or there wouldn't be enough rain. There wouldn't just be enough water. So there's so many reasons. You just got to look into science and then you figure it all out. Even subatomic, even smaller than an atom, like a neutrino, which we don't even know if they really exist. It's just postulated that they might exist. But anyhow. Oh, Sasha, what's up, bro? I worked with him on many streams. So all right, well, we're almost done here. Okay, so then he says we must follow an imam, but brother, that's not exactly true. In the Mughal Empire, they followed the Hanafi fiqh. No one had like a personal imam that they, unless you're a Sufi and you're in a bath with someone. I don't really follow. Brother Umar, can you expand on this one?
Yes, yes. This is the hadith that they like to use, that because you guys don't have an imam. The same hadith disproves them. First of all, he has to be a Muslim. Use your common sense. First of all, he has to be a Muslim. We cannot just accept any Hindu who comes today and said, I'm the imam of the Muslim community. No, you have to be a Muslim. Once you're a Muslim and you claim to be the imam, then you have to be on the right path. You cannot be like a deviant who worships two gods and calls yourself a Muslim and say that, no, we, the Muslims must follow you. The same hadith tells us, if there is no imam, there is basically, there's no righteous group, what do? Ignore all those claimants, all those groups, ignore them, even if you, and stay alone, even if you have to go to the jungle, even if you have to bite on the roots of the trees, just stay on the methodology which Rasulullah and his companions were upon. Stay on the right path, even if all the others are on the, are united on the wrong path. Don't join them. You do not join a false imam. So you have to prove that, first of all, your imam is a Muslim. Once you prove to us that he's a Muslim, then he has to be a righteous imam. He cannot be like a, you want us to join an imam that goes that his job is to basically abrogate everything in the Quran, to say, okay, Quran, I'm a Muslim, okay, I believe there is Allah and Muhammad, but I allow you guys to drink alcohol, and you must drink alcohol 5 times a day. You must eat pork every day. If you don't eat pork, I'll put you in jail. No, you don't follow this kind of guy. You have to be a Muslim on the righteous path, on the methodology of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on the same belief and his companions. Then if we have to follow you, yes, I cannot reject an imam who is correct. I have to follow him. You have to follow the imam, otherwise you're going against the hadith. If you have to follow the imam who is upon the correct aqidah, basically. I think that's how I can put it, on the correct beliefs, and who is following the belief of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. If there is no such imam and no who is leading a group, then you ignore all of them. If there is 10 groups, there is 100 groups, there is 500 groups, ignore all of them and be alone, as long as you stick on the right path. It doesn't mean you be alone and make your own group, which is wrong as well. That's how it is. You don't follow any Tom, Dick, and Harry who claims to be an imam. And this is why we'll not accept your kafir khalifa.
Right, and you know,
this
if you're following an imam, he says something wrong, well, then what do? You know what I mean? So anyhow, and then
it depends on the wrong. It depends on the wrong. You know, there's some wrongs that just because an imam farted in public doesn't mean you go and scold him. No, that's not a big issue. But if he comes and starts saying, no, you must, like I said, you must do these haram things, and it brings major issues, then yeah, you cannot follow that imam.
Totally. So okay, my final comment, and we'll close it. Asif Basit, he criticizes Muslims for saying subhanahu wa ta'ala. He goes, oh, you guys say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like na'uzubillah, mazdat, because I have to say it like this, and oh, you guys read the Quran so good, but you're violent persecutors and at the point of the sword. So what's the point of that? I couldn't believe he said that at the end. He basically said, it doesn't matter how good of Muslims you are guys are violent and terrorists, basically is what he called us. And that's how he ended it, bro.
This is a childish argument. This is another childish argument. So because someone is not a good Muslim, then he should not recite the Quran correctly. Then what are you going to say next? Because he's doing some haram, don't pray. Why are you praying if you're doing haram? This is a very childish argument. And this is, I think, maybe this is truly what they believe. Maybe this is what they truly believe, that since you're doing some haram, then don't do anything good. No, the good deeds are the ones that are going to make you a better person. They will keep you away from the haram.
Totally, brother. Totally. And brother Raouf, did you have any final comments? And if not, we're just going to close it out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, that is our stream today. Yeah,
Bashir, let's say the dua. You know the dua to close this, Raouf? You want to say it?
You go ahead.
Is Raouf there? Or there?
I think so. Go ahead and give us the dua, brother Umar.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفرك اللهم ونتوب إليك.